Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by Lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/knowhow. That's LYNDA.com/knowhow. And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for the right payments API, check out the Braintree V.0 SDK. With one simple integration, you get every way to pay. To learn more and to try out the sandbox, go to BraintreePayments.com/knowhow.
Coming up on Know-How, Nicola Tesla.
Encrypting your data with Sookasa.
Know-How 250 integration.
And your questions, our answers.
Go Team Know-How!
Welcome to Know-How. It's the Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett.
And for the next hour or so, we've got your brain in our know-hole. That does not sound good.
No,
but we need it because we're going to be pouring in all sorts of stuff that you need to take home and geek out with.
We're going to be pouring the knowledge syrup on top of your...
That sounds much better. On your pancake stack of brain cakes.
Learning cakes. I don't know, this was totally rehearsed, and we nailed that intro, too.
We really did.
We didn't even try and practice that at all before.
We were very impressed with ourselves. Speaking of being impressed with ourselves, so I just worked over the July 4th weekend.
Yes, you
kept, what I do.
You kept busy. It's almost like you had to carry someone else's burden.
No, not at all. But normally I get Tuesday and Wednesday to sort of work on pre-records, and I don't have that while Leo's gone. So
yeah, it's been crazy for you.
A little bit crazy. Fun, but crazy. Yeah. You had a more interesting time, though. You killed your phone.
Yes, I did the unthinkable, or I just wasn't thinking, and that was I put my phone in my swim trunks, which typically my swim trunks don't have pockets. This was a new pair.
So we're blaming the swim trunks now, right? Poorly designed swim trunks.
I'm going to blame water. I am going to blame the design of the Moto X. Now, I gently walked into the pool. I think Alex was there too. He was sitting at the side of the pool, and I was sitting there like talking to him, having a good time, 4th of July. And I was like, there's something square in my pocket. And I pulled out my phone. It was still working, but the touch screen wasn't at all.
Was it screaming? Was it like, do you hate me, creator?
Why do you enjoy seeing me suffer? And the thing about the Moto X, too, is you can't pull out the battery. No. And the only way to really power it off is you hold down the power button and then you press the screen to turn it off.
Which wasn't working.
No.
So.
If you just hold down the power button, or at least maybe this was happening because it was wet, I tried holding down the power button just to get it to turn off, and it just cycle rebooted over and over and over. It's like, please stop. Just want you to turn off. I don't want you to die.
And it died.
Oh yeah, it was toast.
Now the interesting thing is this gives us an opportunity because this happens to a lot of people, either dropping it into a toilet, bringing it into a pool, sending it to the wash. We're going to try to breathe some life back into your phone.
You think I can fix it?
Well, you brought up a very important point, and that is the battery was non-removable and it stayed on, and that's actually what causes the damage.
Yeah.
You can wet most electronic devices as long as you pull power immediately and then dry it off before you reapply power.
Drying it off is the part that you have to be patient with, right?
Super patient, because it could seem like it's completely dry, but there's still water in the components.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of this stuff.
This is the silica gel that you get like when you buy new tennis shoes and stuff like that. Although Burke seems to have really big shoes. Maybe these came from Patrick Delhanty.
But so what we're going to basically do is we're going to reactivate the desiccant, because most of the desiccant that you get in your devices has already been used up. It's soaked up as much moisture as it can.
Right.
We're going to show you how we can reactivate that, make it useful again. Put your phone into a bag with nothing but desiccant for a couple of weeks and see if maybe
we can save the phone.
We can say, I doubt it, but we might as well give it a try.
Well, the thing too is I found the little pad. There's little pads inside of phones that tell you if it's contacted with moisture.
Yeah.
So then you can't just send it to the manufacturer and say, I don't know why it stopped working. You know?
White dot, no moisture. Red dot, moisture. Yours is like, oh, hell yeah.
It was like Jon Snow murdered kind of red, just all over.
Spoilers.
Oh, right. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's what we're away from that because we just spoiled Game of Thrones for some people. Now, but what I actually did want to talk about is today is, well, actually tomorrow is a special day. If you're a geek, if you're a person who really likes the whole maker movement and just tinkering and creating things, then you need to celebrate tomorrow because tomorrow is the anniversary of Nikola Tesla's birthday.
Yeah, July 10th, 1856.
1856. So quite a while ago, he was born in what is now modern-day Croatia. He was a Serbian American. He became an American citizen in 1891 at the age of, I think it was like 34 or 35. Okay. He was a university dropout. So he was one of these guys who didn't really do the whole...
So he was the first Bill Gates. Before Bill Gates did it.
Bill Gates before Bill Gates. No, he really was a rebel. But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize he gave us so much more than just coils and the name for a really cool electric car.
Right. I don't think he had much to do with the car.
He had nothing to do with the car. But I mean, this man, this strange, scary-looking man, was really the person I consider. Like maybe not the grandfather, but the great uncle of everything that we use today. I mean, he gave us high frequency, high voltage experiments. He was the one who first experimented with radio control vehicles. So I mean, if we love quadcopters, that's a direct descendant of his early research. Right. He gave us the early advances in magnetic fields and in inductive motors. So when you think about the things that make today's society possible, so much of it comes from Tesla, and he's never credited with any of that.
Right, and as he kind of got towards the end of his life, it was kind of sad, right?
Super sad, yeah. I mean, imagine someone with way more brilliance than the people who we hold up as brilliant engineers or brilliant technologists. He didn't just give us plastic in a new color. He didn't just give us one more thing. He gave us the next thing.
Well, wasn't he more...
Died poor.
Yeah. Well, wasn't he more of like an ideas guy where, you know, like Edison was like, I can make a business out of this?
Yeah. He actually, I would think he's much closer to someone like Elon Musk, who has these ideas that people are just going, what? No,
that'll never work.
That's not gonna work. He was kind of that for his day. People were just looking at him going, no, we know that won't work.
Yeah, well, I guess
alternating current. Why would you want to do that? That's
Elon Musk must have taken the inspiration clearly, but also found a way to monetize.
Yeah. But to celebrate his birthday, I did want to talk about one thing that he actually is a little bit known for, and it's something that we use often. I mean, even if you're not a geek, you've probably used this if you've got some current products, and that is this idea of wireless power, wireless charging.
Yeah, like the Qi charger and stuff.
The Qi charger, that comes from Tesla's work. Now, Tesla was all about wireless power. If you read about his experiments, and Alex has got some slides he can go through. We've seen, you know, in several near-field products like this. This is the Qi standard of wireless power. Basically, it's rings. It's two rings. One ring has current flowing through it that makes it vibrate. That resonates with another ring. That ring vibrates, which now creates a current on the other side. So you can have a gap, an air gap, and you transfer power through those resonant circuits, which is fantastic. That is a direct descendant of the technology that Tesla worked at. It's finally starting to come into its own, but it's not new tech, and I think people should know that because Tesla was experimenting with that in the early 1900s.
Right. But wasn't he trying to do like a big wireless long distance transmission?
Yeah, so he was playing with huge frequency resonant transformers. I believe he first demonstrated the technology was at the 1893 exposition in Chicago. And what he did was he had a coil on one side of the stage, and then he had light bulbs on the other along with resonant coils, and he was lighting the light bulbs with no wires. He was just holding them up and they lit up. So cool demonstration.
Yeah.
He tried to go big scale. What he wanted to do was he wanted to create like a central hub in the middle of a major city, and that hub would resonate power to resonant coils all around the city.
That is such a cool idea.
It's cool,
but also like mad scientist.
A little mad, super mad scientist, right? Yeah. It's like, so wait, let me get this straight. You want to resonate enough power into my house wirelessly to turn on my TV.
I think I've seen this play out before. Isn't that what happened in Ghostbusters?
I think that was like a G.I. Joe episode. I think Cobra got that machine and was trying to fry America. No, but he did make something called a prototype. It was the Wardenclyffe Tower in New York. And actually, Alex, I think we have pictures of the Wardenclyffe Tower. It looked like a power plant. It had a big old smokestack. And the idea was he was going to put a big resonant transformer on top of this thing.
Yeah.
And he was going to try to broadcast within like 5 miles. And he had some backers, but as is the case with a lot of ideas people, he had some great ideas, and he could do the showmanship thing. When it came down to like the nitty-gritty engineering and the like spreadsheets to make sure the thing was actually going to make money, yeah, that's the Wardenclyffe Tower. Sometimes he messed up. It ran over budget and it ran long, and eventually the backers pulled out, and that building went empty. They never got to test the prototype. But like you said, I would love to have seen some mad scientist stuff going on.
Well, all I imagine is him yelling, "Those are details, Padre, details. I am the thinker. I will build a city under the water."
Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, I could see that kind of mad scientist mentality, but all the indications are that Tesla wasn't that guy. In fact, one of the things that I admire the most about this man was he had a series of patents that were purely from his ideas. They weren't derivative. He didn't like take someone else's work and tweak it and then apply for a patent for it. Yeah. He made stuff that had never existed, got patents, and then other people copied his stuff.
And then made
money
off it.
He was quoted once. He was asked by a newspaper person, you know, so-and-so, a really big, famous inventor who we're not going to mention because you can find it on Wikipedia, and I don't want to slander his name. But so-and-so is using the technology you created, and his response was, well, he looks like he's doing good things, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that happening in today's world? Someone saying, hey, look, you created this, they're just stealing it from you. No, they'd be sued 10 ways to Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, you said earlier Elon Musk, and I remember when they released all their patents. I mean, they kind of did that in the sense that they needed to broaden the technology and get more of the electric stuff out there for their cars so they could build the grid and everything for it. But that was pretty big news when they released all their patents. They
released their patents. And you know, I'd love to sit down with Elon and just ask him. So, I mean, I know that you find Tesla as a motivating figure. Did you decide to do that at all because of the way that he approached patents back in the day? But that would be on an episode of Triangulation.
It's the search for knowledge, Padre.
It's the search for knowledge.
Yeah.
But it should be said, as we mentioned before, that he died thinking he was a failure.
Can I just say, though, I keep seeing these eyes back here, and I think it just looks like Alex to me, though.
Kind of. Whoa! That's kind of scary. Okay, chat room, get on it. We need Alex as
What kind of great ideas does Alex have over there?
But yeah, he was screwed over by Edison royally.
You mean Soso? Mr. Soso?
Mr. Soso. And yeah, I wish things had turned out better. I've actually stayed at the hotel. It's the New Yorker in New York City. If you're ever downtown and you pass by the New Yorker, go to the south side because there's actually a plaque dedicated to him. He died in that hotel penniless. And that's really the only monument we have to his brilliance.
Wow. Well, you know, I think Elon Musk is carrying on the name, and I know he watches the show. I mean, he's very active in the chat room for us.
He's tweeted me. He's like, hey, Padre.
Keep up the good work,
awesome show, man.
Sorry, I got to go work on SpaceX. I'll catch the next episode. So if you want to talk to us sometime, Elon, just let us know.
All right, so that was a lot of time on Tesla, but he deserved... Whoa, Tesla!
See? Mr. Tesla himself. Oh, he's busy, right, though?
Can you A-B that? Really, go back and forth, because that was pretty good. That
was quick, Alex.
How about this, Alex? Can Tesla just pop up every once in a while during the show? It's the spirit of Tesla.
Wait, he's watching us. Okay. He's watching.
Now, we do have one segment here. I thought this was important because it's something that people have asked. In fact, this was a question that I got on the new screensavers. And we finally got a question in the Google Plus group about this, and that is, how do you securely back up in the cloud? We got Carlos Sevillano. And Brian, what does he want?
He asks, should I be backing up files from my computer via FTP to my business website? Is that safe? If I should not be doing so, can someone suggest a better method of offsite backup?
Okay, so let's talk about a few things here. First, FTP, no, absolutely not. Never.
Of course not. I would never do that.
FTP has no encryption.
Yeah.
Your credentials and everything that you transfer is going to be out in the open. So if you've got a man-in-the-middle attack, someone sitting in the line between you and the router or you and their destination, yeah, they can pull it all down and they've got everything that you were transferring. SFTP, it's secure. It's better, but FTP is really not the best way to push files up and down. We've talked about this. We think everyone should encrypt, right? Encrypt, 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 encrypt. But why don't we encrypt?
Because it's hard.
It's hard. Or maybe not even hard. It adds a step, and we don't like adding steps.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole reason.
Yeah, we're lazy. We're lazy. So encryption, the greatest encryption ever, is only as weak as the laziest person who's not going to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So what we wanted to do is we wanted to take a look at a solution that I've actually been using for a while that is incredibly easy. And if you're using Dropbox, you already have 50% of the solution installed on your computer. It's called Sucasa. Alex, yeah, you can either use my computer. Oh, yeah, there you go. Now, if you go to the sign up for free, this is a service. It's a cloud service that integrates with Dropbox, with OneDrive, with Google Drive, essentially any of the major cloud storage platforms. Go ahead and take a look at input 11, Alex. This is 11? 11. You have 10.
No, that was 11.
That's 11?
Is that your background?
Oh, I know what's going on here. It's
mirrored.
It's extending rather than mirroring. So Sucasa, what it does is it allows you to run a plugin, an application on your computer that will give you a folder inside any of those popular cloud storage services, which will then let you automatically encrypt files before they go up into the cloud.
Yeah, that's really cool. And didn't Dropbox a while back admit that they don't really protect your files that much? Like, if they're plain text, just about anyone who can get access to them? Or...
Well, I mean, they encrypt in motion and at rest, but someone who's dedicated could actually might be able to get a hold of stuff that you don't want them to get a hold of. Dropbox is good. OneDrive is good. Google Drive is good. But what you want is you want a way to make sure that even if those services are compromised, someone who has their keys won't be able to access your data. And that's what Sucasa does.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So let me show you this. So once this software is installed, you'll look into now this is what your folder would look like if you have Dropbox. There's a folder here called Sucasa. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Yeah, there you go. Now this is just like any other file folder in my Dropbox. So this is going to be synced between all the computers that I have running Dropbox. Once I've run the Sucasa plugin, which is tiny, it's tiny, and it's actually go ahead and go to the bottom here, Alex. It just runs down in the tray, just like any other application that's running in the background. When I go ahead and I drop a file in, so for example, here are my Security Now notes from this week. If I drop it in here, before it uploads it to Dropbox, it's going to encrypt it. And once it's encrypted, I get this little bubble down here at the bottom that says that securitynow.docx is now encrypted.
So it encrypts it on your machine and then uploads it?
Correct. So the unencrypted file never transits the network until it's done encrypting, which is better than some other services that I tried and I stopped using. What they would do is it would send up to them, encrypt, and then send to the cloud, which that's not good because there's still a vulnerable link. On this, as long as you trust your computer, that your computer is not compromised, that your security, your personal security is good, it means they're never going to have an inkling. Even if they're somehow able to break the encryption that Dropbox uses or OneDrive uses, all they'll get is your encrypted file. And they'll have to break the encryption on that. And it's actually pretty good. It's 256 AES. They use an SSL or TLS connection between you and the cloud. I'm still a little unsure on where the keys are stored. I know the keys are stored on my computer. I want to find out a bit more about where the keys are stored on Sucasa service, because if they have like both sets of keys, that's a deal breaker. But I don't think that's how it works. And you're protected from man-in-the-middle attacks. You're protected from snoops. In fact, here's my favorite part. Even if I have a computer elsewhere that is connected to my Dropbox or my OneDrive or my Google Drive, they will get synced on their computer the encrypted file, so they can't look at it.
So if you try and share that with, say, like you wanted to share that with me, that would be encrypted to me, and how would I
There's a way.
it?
So Sucasa will actually let you share with other individuals, but if you want to do it encrypted, then you're going to have to start paying. So this is a free service. It's free for non-commercial, for personal use. It's $10 a month for professional use. That adds HIPAA and FERPA compliance, which actually you want that. I mean, if it's going to be for business use, you need that. That's something that you want, because if you're transferring any files that are sensitive, if you don't have that, that's a big legal liability. It also does secure file delivery. Now, if you do want to share, you can share between people who have Sucasa accounts, and essentially you share your key with them, and you say you can open this one file, not necessarily the entire folder.
Okay. Well, this seems like a really good way to do, much more secure than FTP, and if you're doing something like this for your business, then this is probably the way to go. So I like that suggestion.
Yeah. And so I'm showing this to you because I want a lot of you to play with this and see if this is a service you like. As we were saying, encryption is as weak as the laziest person.
Yep.
This is as easy to use as Dropbox. If you can drag a file into Dropbox, you can now encrypt and have, even if you're not going to share it with people, at least have the peace of mind to know that the stuff I've loaded up in the cloud, even if it gets violated, they won't be able to do anything with it because it's encrypted. It's encrypted inside of the encrypted folder inside of Dropbox.
I heard you liked encryption, Padre.
So I put encryption in your encryption.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Now, I want Steve Gibson to get on this with me. I have done a preliminary test on this. I've been testing it for about a month now. I haven't seen any leakage, so I've had Wireshark on it to make sure that it wasn't transferring anything in the clear. It's not. I know that. I know the keys are stored locally. I know that I can have access to the keys even when I'm disconnected for the internet, so that means it's in this computer. I just don't know the other side, and they're not really forthcoming with that. So I may withdraw this recommendation, but right now it looks really good. Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot of the research on it, and I mean, it's better than not doing any encryption at all if you're worried about this sort of thing.
Right. One note. If you're one of these people who loves to have full access to everything on all your computers, like for example, I've got these two laptops that I use for on-set. I've got my office computer here, I've got the studio computer back in San Francisco, and then I've got my lab computer, and they're all synced up on the same Dropbox. If you run Sucasa on all of them and give the keys to all of them, it means that your encryption is as weak as the weakest security on one of those stations, just so you know. Because it is encrypted, but if the key is on the computer and the security for your computer is horrible,
all over it, so if anyone gets access to one of those, they could get access to it.
Correct. So you, I mean, it's easy, but you still have to be smart about it.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's only as strong as the weakest link of how lazy someone is. So, you know, probably don't install it on every machine you don't have like near access to, because I think we talked to Russell a lot, and he says as soon as someone gets physical access to your computer, you're kind of out of luck, you know. So try not to let that happen.
Right. Like on mine, I've got disk encryption. So you actually have to get in the OS. Just getting the drive out of the computer is not going to help you. I've got the file encrypted on the disk encryption, and then I'm using encrypted transfer to transfer into an encrypted box. But all of that goes away if you have my username and password. So,
okay.
All right. Now, when we come back, we're going to be giving you the third piece, and actually the final piece of the physical integration of Project Know-How 250. Remember, we wanted to show you how to make a high-performance 250 class racer, actually less expensive than the Hobby King 250 and way, way more powerful. We're going to give you the last steps of integration before you can actually take this thing out and fly it. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and take a moment, thank the first sponsor of this episode of Know-How, and it's got to be lynda.com. We've talked about them a lot. Remember how we talked about taking your brain cake? Pouring the knowledge syrup over it. Well, you got to do that inside the knowledge hole. And the knowledge hole is filled by lynda.com.
That's right.
Lynda.com is the repository, the one-stop shop on the internet for knowledge. And I'm not talking about training, although that's part of it. It's also a source of knowledge when you just need a quick reference. For example, if you're a programmer and you have forgotten something, some process or some mnemonic, something that you need for the next project, rather than searching through the internet and finding good answers and bad answers, why not just go to lynda.com and use it as the place where you can forward directly to that piece that has the answer you need and be done with it. Now, lynda.com is for people who want to know, for the solvers, for the curious, for people like Nicola Tesla who want to make things happen. Maybe you want to develop a new app, maybe you want to master Excel, take better photos, or sharpen your HTML skills. No matter what kind of knowledge you're looking for, Lynda has everything you need to feed that curious mind. Some of the latest lynda.com courses that I can recommend are up and running with Arduino and Java Essential training for students. Lynda.com also released a series of brand new courses on Adobe's Creative Cloud updates for 2015, including tutorials on Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Audition, After Effects, InDesign, and Illustrator. There's also a first look at developing for the Apple Watch. If you want to be the first person who makes an Apple Watch app that doesn't suck, well, you got to go to lynda.com.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. We've used lynda.com here. You've heard this story before, but it's so powerful, I'd like to tell it. We switched from using Final Cut Pro on Macs to
Final Cut 7.
Final Cut 7, I know, because we don't want to go to the new version, to using Premiere Pro on Windows PCs. Our editors are good, but they needed a way to cross-apply their knowledge. So find out how they could make a tool work the way they had it working in Final Cut Pro. Well, that's what they used lynda.com from. And what makes it so easy is that they've got transcripts for all their courses. So you don't have to sit through an entire 10, 20, 30-minute module to find the one bit of knowledge you're looking for. Search the transcript, find out where that corresponds to in the video, and then watch it. That's part of the power that is lynda.com. You can learn at your own pace, streaming thousands of videos on demand. The course is structured so that you can watch it from start to finish, or you can consume it in bite-sized pieces, and you get to take notes and refer to them later. It's all about giving you the knowledge in the way that you want, at the time that you want, on the device that you want. Android or iOS, it really doesn't matter. You can download these tutorials and watch them on the go. And you can create playlists and share them with your friends. For example, if you want your friends to get into Premiere or get into quadcopters or get into photography, make a set for them that you think will give them the knowledge to get into the hobby, into the field. Oh, we want you to try lynda.com. Lynda.com and their membership will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one low flat rate. Whether you're looking to become an expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, we, Cranky Hippo and I, want you right now to visit lynda. Well, after the show, visit lynda.com/knowhow and sign up for your free 10-day trial. That's lynda.com/knowhow. And we thank lynda.com for their support of know-how.
Yeah, Lynda was really helpful when I was taking my C++ class. Yeah, because then the things that I missed during class, I could brush up on Lynda.
Now, for your next C++ class, why don't we just make your homework the homework of the audience?
Well, if I still worked on C101, I would, yeah. Hey, Lou, how about this assignment here?
Oh, that's right. You abandoned us on that show.
I did what I had to do, Padre.
You know, I also do what I had to do, and you know what I had to do?
What's that?
I had to do the Know How 250.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hit that magic button. Is that what you're gonna say?
I was.
Or should we?
And are you gonna say that?
No.
No.
Oh, well then we'll just sit here.
Okay. Oh, I thought Nikolai was gonna be in the corner again.
Hey, Alex, hit the magic button. In the last episode of Project Know-How 250, we assembled our flip, configured the control system, and calibrated our ESCs. This time we're going to configure the flight controller, test the rotation of our motors, and get the KH250 ready for its maiden flight. The first step is to connect your flip flight controller to your computer and power it up. Turn on your transmitter, then reconnect the USB cable to the flip, and connect a battery to the XT60 connector. Start the multi-UI interface and hit Connect. Then tab into the flight deck to verify that it's working. We need to first calibrate the accelerometers on the flight controller. These are the sensors that allow the flip to keep the craft level. Click the Calibrate ACC button while the KH250 is on a level surface and don't move it. Once the process is complete, you can calibrate the magnetometer if you purchased your board with that option. Click Write Settings to push the newly calibrated configuration to the flight controller.
With the accelerometers calibrated, let's go ahead and trim our control inputs. Click on the RC Control Settings tab and you'll see a window labeled Live RC Data to the right. These are the real-time values of the inputs that the flip is receiving from the radio. Let's first make sure that your controller is receiving proper inputs. Looking at the Live RC Data window, advancing the throttle through its range should show the throttle going from 0% full gray to 100% full green. Moving the right stick all the way forward should make the pitch value go full green, and moving it all the way back should make it go full gray. Moving the right stick all the way to the right should make the roll value go full green, and moving it all the way to the left should make it go full gray. Moving the left stick all the way to the right should make the yaw value go full green, and moving it all the way to the left should make it go full gray. If any of the live values indicated are reversed, then you should reverse that channel on your transmitter. Also, this is a good time to check your auxiliary channels. If they're assigned to switches, then toggling them on and off should make aux1 and aux2 change positions. Now that we know that your flight controller is receiving proper inputs, we need to set the sub-trims on your transmitter to calibrate the values in the Live RX Data window. With the throttle on your transmitter all the way down and your hands off the sticks, the window should be reporting that the throttle is completely gray and pitch, roll, and yaw are at 1500. If those values are not close to 1500, you'll experience drift even without an external force acting on your craft. Go into the sub-trim settings for your transmitter and adjust each channel. You may not be able to get exactly 1500, but get as close as possible. The last flight controller procedure is to set the functions of our auxiliary channels. The base configuration of a flip flight controller gives you 4 features that you can activate with switches. Arm, which will arm and disarm the motors. Angle, which will engage full self-leveling mode. Horizon, which will self-level the craft while the sticks are centered, but will allow for flips and acrobatics when full pitch or roll is applied. And Acro, which isn't listed but will activate full manual control if neither angle or horizon are selected. The boxes next to each of these functions let you configure when each feature is toggled. For example, if I select H for high for arm in auxiliary channel 1, then the motors will be armed when that switch is on, and disarmed when the switch is off. If I select L for low for angle, and M for mid for horizon, both in auxiliary channel 2, then angle mode will be engaged when the switch is off, horizon mode when the switch is at its midpoint, and acro when the switch is on. Make sure to choose a switch layout that makes sense for you, as you don't want to accidentally be flying in the wrong mode because you confused your switches. Also, if you don't choose a switch position for arming, then down and to the right on the left stick will arm, down and to the left will disarm. Flip through your switches a few times to make sure that they activate what you think they're activating. Once you're satisfied with the layout, click the Right Settings button and the configuration will be saved to the flight controller. With the flight controller sorted, it's time to make sure our motors are rotating in the proper directions. Arm the craft, then throttle up slightly. Your motor should start spinning. Take a piece of paper and push it up against each motor to determine which way it's spinning. Again, remembering our arm numbering from the first Project Know-How 250 segment, motors 1 and 3 should be spinning clockwise, motors 2 and 4 counterclockwise. Make a note of any motor that isn't spinning in the right direction, then throttle down, disarm the craft, disconnect power, and turn off your transmitter. Fixing improper rotation is easy. Slide back or cut off the zip ties holding the ESCs for the affected motor so that you can access the bullet connectors beneath. Swap any 2 of the connectors, and that will reverse the rotation of that motor. Make sure to swap the motor leads, not the power leads, as the latter will lead to blue smoke. Once you've swapped pairs for all the motors needing reversing, power up and test again. If all the motors are spinning in the proper direction, congratulations! The electrical systems of your KH250 are now properly configured. All that's left is to strap in the wiring, button up the chassis, affix the battery mount, and install your props. Start by cinching your ESCs and motor bullets to the arms. There are several ways to do this, but I prefer to use small zip ties to secure the wiring and larger ties to snug the ESCs. I like to secure my receiver with a piece of double-sided foam tape and a zip tie to snug it to the lower plate of the extension frame. Find a way to secure the ESC and receiver leads that holds them to the frame and yet doesn't pull them from the flight controller or receiver or put undue stress on the ESCs. Battery mounting is always a point of preference. Some builders prefer to strap batteries to the top of the extension frame, while others prefer them hung under the craft. Personally, I like to run a Velcro strap through the slits on the bottom of the frame, then fasten a strip of self-adhesive Velcro to the undercarriage. By adding Velcro to each battery, I provide 2 points of adhesion for every battery pack. A good way to avoid sliding battery packs from shifting weight while in flight. Add the top plate to the extension frame, making sure to slot in the camera holder at the front of the craft and secure it with 8 M3 screws, dabbing each in Loctite blue. Attach a battery without connecting it to the XT60 connector and give your craft a go-around, checking balance, firmness of the connecting points, and overall assembly of the KH250. Look for anything that rattles, shakes, or flexes with moderate vibration. If you're happy with your craftsmanship, remove the spinners and washers from each of the motors, then add your props, making sure to put clockwise props on motors 1 and 3, counterclockwise on 2 and 4. Drop washers on top of each prop, then finger tighten the spinners. Using any tool that can fit into the small hole in each spinner, hold each motor casing with one hand while using the other hand to tighten the spinner. You don't want it so tight that it will strip the threads, but you want it to be tight enough to avoid vibrating free. Also, make sure that none of your wires are in the rotating paths of the propellers. If you're an intermediate or advanced quadcopter pilot, then you already know how to do a shakedown made in flight. But if you're a beginner, then we'll teach you how to test, tune, and push your quadcopter in the next episode of Project Know-How 250.
Wait for the drop. No, never mind.
No, there is no drop.
There is no drop. That was the drop. The funny thing was, so for that last shot, I was just trying to spin up the props every once in a while, right?
Right.
But these are so powerful, I had to up and down immediately, because even if I left it at the lowest level, it started to lift.
What?
There's so much thrust coming off these props and motors. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, these guys look pretty beefy. Now, are you going to show us a demo of this coming up soon?
Yes, especially since this will do the hybrid self-leveling.
Yeah.
So the whole reason why we're using this flight controller instead of some of the ones that we've used in the past, like the KK, is this has a couple of cool features. The first is you can use what's called angle mode, which is just like full self-leveling. That's what we've been doing in the past.
Right.
There's full manual mode, which has no self-leveling, which is what we've been using when I wanted to flip. I had to go into full manual, and you've seen me crash a lot.
I've been too scared to even try, so I've seen what you've done.
But this also has this hybrid mode, this self-level mode, that what it does is, as long as the sticks are somewhere in the middle, it does full leveling.
That's
right?
cool,
So
and that's really helpful for like FPV, right?
Exactly, but as soon as you go full, all one side on stick one, so that's either the aileron or the elevator, it will go full manual. So you can flip it, and then as you release the sticks, it will go back to self-level.
You just don't want to self-level while it's upside down, right?
Yeah. So there's still a little bit of skill that's involved in it, but it's actually closer to the SEMA, what we used to do with the SEMA X5. Push a button, make it flip.
Which is still probably one of my favorite quads to just bust out and fly around, because I can crash into stuff and not really have to worry about it. But,
right. Next week, I'm just going to show you a quick tutorial on getting this in the air. So
cool.
if you're advanced, if you've done a couple of builds, you know what I'm going to tell you. There's a couple of checklist pieces that you have to do to make sure that it's going to respond correctly. You have to tune the throttle curve, because especially with this, since it's so powerful, it will have a tendency to take off on you. So I'm going to show you how to flatten the throttle curve so it doesn't do that.
So yeah, I like the look of it too.
With the ESCs underneath it, it kind of makes it mean.
Yeah,
it looks
right?
really, really mean.
It looks a little angry.
It's an angry quad.
Yeah.
The other thing that we're going to be doing, and we're going to start this, I think, in 3 weeks. We're going to take a little bit of time off of quads and let you get used to this. But we're going to be mounting FPV. So if you've been wanting to get into first-person view flight,
yes,
this is actually ready. You'll notice that there's a little mount on the front. So I could just do this. I could screw this in, and now I've got an FPV camera on the front of my quadcopter. I put the transmitter inside the cage, which is why we have the cage, because we wanted space for all the extra equipment.
Right.
And you'd be ready to go. Put on a set of goggles and fly this thing.
And you've also got these little 3D printed models here.
This is the merging of the worlds. Alex, if you go to the overhead, these...
Scooch.
These are little mounts that I created on my 3D printer. What they do is they actually grab onto, if you see the little red aluminum standoffs here.
Right, they go through there.
They go through the columns. What this will allow me to do is it will allow me to take this camera and push it back into the frame a little bit, so that if I crash, it's a bit more protected.
Right.
But also, each of these has a different level of tilt. Because when you start off, your camera will look like this. It's just going to be straightforward.
Right.
Because you probably just want to get the hang of it.
You're going to be level for most of your flight.
Correct. Well, you should be, because you're just getting the hang of flying FPV.
Right.
As you get more advanced, your camera will start to lean back until eventually you can't see the ground when you're
So when you
on the ground.
take off, yeah, you're going to be looking at the sky.
Right. And that's because when you're racing, your quad doesn't look like this. Your quad looks like this.
Yeah.
And you want to see out of the front of the craft, not down into the ground.
Who is that? The FP?
Sharpoo.
Sharpoo.
Yeah, he's so good.
When he set down his quad, because he has, I think, a Mobius or something like that.
He's in the sky.
And then he also has like a GoPro. And I was like, why is the GoPro facing almost straight up? And you're like, oh, because it flies like this.
There's a T-shirt that says, beginner, and it looks like this, intermediate, advanced, and then Sharpoo is just flat like that.
Yeah, and
because that's really how he flies.
And if there's people in the audience who haven't seen those FPV videos, I suggest you check them out because it is really cool.
It's really good. If you want to see what you can do with a little bit of practice and a whole lot of nerve, because I mean, he risks his quads every single time he flies.
Yeah.
Check him out, Sharpoo FPV. We're going to have him as a guest on Padres Corner at some point, and I'm trying to get him in studio for a know-how. So.
Well, let's just hope we don't book him on the same day as Elon Musk, then.
I know.
Yeah,
well,
right?
That's going to be awkward.
Yeah, geez. Sorry, sorry, Elon. We've got someone. We're going to bump you for
Elon, you're cool. You're cool, but...
You're not Sharpoo cool.
Damn, Nicola, he's always popping in. It's so weird.
He just looks so judgmental.
What are you guys doing?
Right. I almost feel like he's going to say, you guys are running out of time. Look at the clock.
Okay, all right. So let's do some quick feedback before Alex, our director, calls time on this. What's the first one, Brian?
All right, this comes from Adam Eldrisi. I'm looking at 4-bay NAS, and I've got it narrowed down to a Synology and a QNAP, or is that QNAP?
No, that's a QNAP.
Okay. I'm having some issues with my FreeNAS server, so what I'm looking to do is have FreeNAS backed up to the new NAS, and the new NAS back up all the PCs in the house. I'm also thinking about getting a couple of 2-bay NASs from my parents' houses, one for my mom and one for my dad, and have their PC back them up, and then use them for offsite for the most important files he has. I know Padre likes Synology, and I'm kind of leaning that way, but wanted your guys' opinions and experiences. So
Adam, first of all, I have used both QNAP and Synology, and QNAP's actually quite good. I used them as a primary brand in my physical plant for many years.
I feel like you're going to lean towards Synology.
Synology really turned up their game in the last, I'd say, 4 years. And their boxes, not only is the hardware impeccable, very high quality components. I haven't yet had a Synology NAS fail on me, and that's very weird because I've got over 24 of them running. I thought at least a power supply would have gone out by now.
Yeah.
But no, they're built very, very, very well, and they're fast, which they're faster than the QNAS. I hate to say that because QNAS has been known for running really quickly because it's sort of bare metal.
Is there a big price difference?
No,
they're pretty similar.
They're very similar, and the nice thing about the Synology is the DSM, the Disk Station Manager, the operating system that runs on these things. It is no comparison. It blows everyone out of the water. QNAP, ReadyNAS from Netgear, Western Digital, none of those come close to what you can get from a Synology DSM. And the nice thing about the DSM is from the smallest unit like this is a little 2-bay, this is a 213, all the way up to like the 1515 or the 1518 plus, whatever they call that thing, the operating system runs the same. So if you learn one, you'll learn them all. Now, what I really like about this is that they're fast and they're quiet. I run one of these on my desktop. This is how I back up. I've got a mirror of 2 6-gigabyte drives in this thing, and it backs up everything that's on my production machine. So I've got 2 backup copies in addition to the original copy of everything that's on my editing computer.
Okay.
It's got 2 gig ports, which you can bond if you've got a really, really fast network. And I just like these.
And what are those USB 3 ports on the back too?
USB 3 ports for expandability. So if I wanted to, I could plug in another 6 terabyte drive into the USB 3 port, and I could tell it, go ahead and back up everything on your drives to this. So I'd have 3 redundant copies of the originals.
And you've got, so you say you have like a dozen of these running 24/7?
Well, no, I mean, so these are my smallest. Most of mine are either 4 or 5 bay units.
Okay.
So this is running, this is just mirroring. So I've got 2 drives in there. They're exact copies. And that's because I don't use, it's not like that's not a backup in itself. It's the fact that I have multiples of these running the same thing.
Right.
That makes it a backup.
Cool.
And they're not that expensive. In fact, you could get one of these super high reliability NAS with 2 4-terabyte drives in it for about $500.
And those are the Western Digital Red drives,
right?
That we've
it'll
recommended
cost you
in the past.
Like 300 and some for the drives. It'll cost you 200 for the NAS. And you're good to go. It's this also does rsynching between NASs. So if I have multiple units of this that are connected over the internet, let's say there's one at my parents' house and one at my house, it will automatically back up between the 2 of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is nice because it means that their files are backed up on one of my units and my files are backed up on one of their units.
Yep.
And that gives me my distance.
Cool.
Yeah. Just make sure to encrypt because my parents, they're always trying to get into my stuff.
Right. Because they want to watch all the B-roll that you've got of your quadcopters.
Yeah, totally.
I wonder what Robert's flying now.
There's another quadcopter.
Another quadcopter.
That's exactly how they sound, by the way.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on.
So this one comes from Justin Egan. He has a question about, I have an older laptop with an Intel Pentium dual-core CPU and 2 gigs of RAM. What is the most efficient version of Linux for battery life? I plan to use it as a Chromebook and a game emulator.
This is actually a fantastic question, and yeah, this is what Linux is supposed to do, right? I mean, Linux can breathe life into computers that Windows just can't do anymore. And even OS X can't do anymore. If you're looking for what we call minimal footprint Linux that can access the web, possibly be used for game emulation, and have a decent battery life, that's an interesting combination. I would actually separate the game emulation from the basic web access because there are some live CDs that you can run or live USB flash drives that you can run that will do emulation so much better because it just does emulation.
So it's been a long time since I've played games on Linux. I know that Steam was doing a bunch of stuff for Linux.
But I mean, he wouldn't be talking about that. I mean, he's talking about a low-power computer. This is literally like arcade emulation.
Yeah, so we're talking like Mario and stuff. Okay.
But let's go ahead and get into it. If I had to choose my 5 favorite low footprint, minimal footprint Linux, my first has to be Anti-X. And Alex, I think you have all the links for this. Anti-X it's nice because it runs on 485 megabytes of memory of storage space, and you only need about a gig of active memory in order to make it run. Do you have the links for this, Alex? There you go. So it installs with ICE WM as the default desktop. It can be loaded with apps, and you can strip this thing down to a 265 megabyte foundation. So I mean, we're talking incredibly small.
That's really tiny.
Yeah, on which you can install your own modules. And you've had experience with this. The Raspberry Pi dropping modules on it. That's just like how you would configure one of these.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Anti-X would be my number 5. My number 4 is probably Damn Small Linux. This was really popular a while back. It can run on a 15 megabyte live CD. In fact, that's what it was designed for. It was kind of an experiment. It only needs 16 megabytes of memory, so you want minimal footprint. This is about as minimal as you're going to get and still have this level of functionality. You can run it on flash drives, and it's a very basic desktop. Again, they designed to give you something that works, and then you install the modules that you need on top of it.
And so, I mean, I guess battery life will increase as the demand of the OS?
Not necessarily. That's one of the things. You can get incredible battery life out of a Linux computer. It didn't used to be like that. But you have to install the right modules to take advantage of the energy-saving hardware in that laptop. Because if you run it in its default configuration, everything will be on all the time, unless your computer does some sort of hardware prioritization of energy saving. Like both Windows and OS X have hooks into the hardware that can tell it when it doesn't need to spend as much power.
Right.
So there you go.
The next one I've used this one.
It's so cute. It's Puppy Linux. Puppy Linux runs. This is interesting. It takes about 54 megabytes, but what it does is it creates a RAM disk and then copies itself into that RAM disk. So Technically, it's crazy fast. It's ridiculously fast because it runs off of, this was before flash drives became popular. Again, you could boot off a flash drive, you can boot off a CD, you could boot off hard drive, you could basically boot off anything.
Right.
It's a very, very basic system. It's great for experimentation. Not so great for, putting it into production, but if you just want to play with low footprint Linux, that's a good one. My second favorite, and actually I was really tied between this and my first favorite, Vector. Vector is based on Slackware, which is one of my favorite distros. It's one of the OG Linux distros. It installs in 850 megabytes. It's fast, it's good for graphics, it's great for the web. It can even be used for servers, and they make it available in several different versions. There's Deluxe, Standard, Soho, Light, Live, which means they do a lot of the configuration for you. Okay. Which is nice. So you don't have to be adding on modules. You choose the one that works. And
so it's a little bit more plug and play. Because that was always, I mean, if you like to tinker, which is part of the reason why you would get Linux anyway, I've had a lot of fun with that. But sometimes you just want things to work a little faster.
Right, exactly. Now, my favorite, but again, remember, this is tied very closely with Vector, is Linux Lite. I've had really good success with this. It's based on Ubuntu. It's LTS, the long-term service. It's ready to go at first boot as both a web and a multimedia device. It comes pre-installed with VLC, with Firefox, with LibreOffice, with GIMP. It runs on 800 megabytes of storage space, 512 megabytes of memory, although you're going to want to double that if you want good performance. Right. It doesn't have a live CD, but again, the original poster, his question was to put it on an old laptop, so you don't necessarily need the CD. Okay. That is where I would actually start. If you want to get into Linux and you don't want to worry about installing modules, don't deal with number 5 through number 2. Go for number 1 or 2. That will give you a basic package that includes most everything you're going to want out of a minimal notebook.
Right. See how it goes for a little while, and then if you really want to go smaller, work your way up the list back to like Puppy Linux or something.
But those smaller ones, they were experiments. I mean, that was when we were like, how small could you make Linux and still have it run?
I used Puppy Linux when I think I might have, it was like the tail end of high school. Maybe I had just gotten out of high school, but I was using a Pentium 2. It was a 500 megahertz processor with like it was 256 megabytes of RAM. So that's why I was playing with Puppy Linux, is because my computer was it was old for the time.
And his box is actually not that old.
No, I mean 2 gigs of RAM.
It's a dual-core CPU, so any of these are going to run fine. 2 gigs of memory is more than enough.
It's an Intel Pentium dual core, so it's probably got hyper-threading.
One other thing I will mention, Justin, is that if this is an older laptop and you're looking for battery life, remember, batteries don't age well. So unless you've replaced it recently, and if you want to get decent battery life out of it, you're probably going to want to replace the battery pack. Just because.
So you might even try replacing the battery if it's not too expensive. Who knows, for old laptops, and then maybe even run like Linux Mint or Ubuntu or something like that if you want a full-fledged Linux OS.
Let's go ahead and move on. We got a question about cloning.
This comes from Bernard Bout. You spoke about the best upgrade being to add an SSD. The problem is that I have an OEM PC with Windows 8 and no CD to do the reinstall. To make it worse, I have no usable Windows serial number. I don't want to spend the cash and then find out that the Windows ID is tied to the old hard drive. Could you or anyone else who is in the same situation clarify that the SSD cloning is possible on an OEM machine?
Yes. First of all, the fact that you don't have a Windows key is not a problem. Go onto the web and search for Visual Basic Windows 8.1 key. And it's actually a script that you can get from Microsoft. So this is not some hacker group that's making this. It will extract the key from your operating system, Windows 8 and above. So that's not a problem. But I understand what you're talking about. People with Windows 8 installations, often they don't come with any physical media, right?
No.
It's the hard drive. And the hard drive has some way to make like an emergency disk.
It has the smaller partition,
Right, but the emergency disk isn't the full install. It's just a way to get...
Repair.
Correct, repair the partition. And that's a pain in the butt. The first part of the answer is this. Every major manufacturer, Acer, Dell, HP, Toshiba, anyone who makes desktops or laptops needs to have, it's actually required by law, they need to have a way that you can get the physical media. I've got, this is from that Acer gaming machine that you had and I have in my lab. I think I had to pay $11 for the shipping.
To get the
just to get the discs, but then you get a full set of physical media. This is one of the first things I do if I'm going to keep a laptop. I will get the physical media because it means no matter what happens to the hardware, even if I lose the SSD, and so therefore I no longer have access to that partition that has the emergency repair information, I can still reinstall off of physical media.
Okay.
That's an absolute essential. It's a pain in the butt that they don't include this in the box, but their thinking is it saves them money, which they kind of pass on to you, and most people are never going to use the physical media.
Yeah, it's usually going to get lost, thrown in the trash with the box.
Yeah. But if you're watching Know How, you ain't most people. So go ahead and find out how you get your physical media. They owe it to you. Go get it. Now, I know that some companies will charge an outlandish amount of money for the physical media. If that happens, you should probably shame them on Twitter. And be sure to CC me, and I'll shame them too, because that's not right. However, there's something else. He talked about cloning. Cloning can be touchy with Windows 8.
I haven't done that in a while. And it was the last machine I did that on was Windows 7. I think I used like Ghost.
Or the one I'm using right now is actually if you buy a Kingston SSD, it's going to come with a copy of a Cronus True Image, which works very well. I've had nothing but success with that. But just know that if you're using old cloning software on Windows 8, it's probably not going to work properly.
Okay.
Because of the way that, especially if it's tied to the UEFI, the replacement for the BIOS on the motherboard.
Right.
It doesn't like having that happen to it. It's crapped out.
Yeah, okay.
So make sure you're using cloning software that's actually rated for Windows 8.1. But it works just fine.
Okay.
But you've heard me say if you're going to add an SSD, I would prefer that you do a clean installation, because why copy over all that crap if you could just get a nice, fresh, fast install?
Yeah, it's going to be fast on an SSD.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
We're clearly big fans of SSDs, yeah.
Let's go ahead and close it up with one last thing. I know that our director wants us to get out of here, but you know what? We're going to do this anyway because we love Nicola Tesla, and we wanted to throw one last thing his way. Now,
actually, Padre, how about we do do you have another blue sheet of paper by you?
Oh, yes. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and thank the last sponsor of this episode of Know How. I really got caught up in this episode.
There's just so much knowledge flying around everywhere.
There is. Now, let me ask you something. Do you design apps at all? Because if you do, at some point, you're probably going to want to be able to do a financial transaction. Now, it doesn't have to be them paying for your app. It could be them paying for something in-app, or maybe you're designing an app to take money in for a nonprofit organization. No matter what it may be, if you're dealing with finances, the rules are a little bit different. Yeah, you could do it on your own. You could do it by yourself. You could stand up the server and contact the financial company that you need to contact in order to make it work properly, and then be responsible for all that financial and personal information. Or you could just contact Braintree. That's why we love having Braintree as a sponsor of Know How. Braintree is a better way to do payments in mobile apps. They've got a V.0 SDK, which allows you in 10 lines of code or less to build a mobile app payment service. Now, this is used by companies like Airbnb, Uber, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, Munchery, and GitHub. And speaking of GitHub, Braintree actually spoke with CTO Juan Benitez about working with a company on this level. And this is what he said.
Any developer platform GitHub is willing to use to secure its most sensitive data and to power its payments, it should be good enough for a lot of folks. It's really important to make your customers happy, to earn the respect of those types of customers, and then a lot of good things will happen as a result of them.
A lot of good things indeed. Now, those lots of good things are basically how you could call Braintree. They've got the support that you need. And when I say support, I really mean support. If you're having trouble with the integration, you can actually contact one of their representatives and they'll do the integration for you. They'll walk you through it. How about that for support? Developers, don't worry, because they got you. It's not going to take you days or weeks to integrate your payments. With Braintree, it's done in minutes. The Braintree SDK supports Android, iOS, and JavaScript clients. It's also in 7 languages from .NET, Node.js, Java, Perl, PHP, Python, and Ruby. It's elegant code with clear documentation, and as I said, it's 10 lines. Simplicity, and simplicity means better service. Oh, here's what we want you to do. We want you to try Braintree. Braintree gives you an easy way to accept multiple payment types with one integration. It's quick, knowledgeable. They give you the developer support that you need if you have any questions, and it lets you start accepting Apple Pay, PayPal, Bitcoin, Venmo, cards, and whatever is next, all with that simple integration. With that Braintree V.0 SDK, one small snippet of code, and you're ready to roll. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/knowhow. That's BraintreePayments.com/knowhow. And we thank Braintree for their support of know-how. Bryan.
Yes?
Did your phone get hot? Well, I mean, not anymore because it's dead. But
Yeah, it got water cooled.
It got water cooled.
And then it never came back.
This is actually something that I think a lot of people will feel with. And that is, well, when you had your phone working, where did you store it in the car?
In the car?
Yeah.
Usually in the little cup holder in the front
cup holder?
there? Yeah.
I used to put mine on the dash, but I
sitting
had
in
to
the
stop
sun?
doing that because that got hot.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
I got really hot, and it was horrible. And actually, yeah, heat's not bad. A couple of times when I was still using my iPhone, and I had it on the
You
I had it on the
had an
dash.
iPhone?
I did. I use everything, man.
Yeah, I mean, same here, but I can't see you with an iPhone.
I got that warning, temperature too high, shutting down. I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Oh, wow.
And as we know from our work with quadcopters, LiPo batteries really don't like heat.
Yeah, that'll destroy your battery.
Yeah, it breaks down the insulation between the cells, and it actually affects the chemistry. So you want to keep your batteries cool, especially when they're charging, because that's when they're most vulnerable.
Actually, my HTC Incredible, a phone I had a few years back, got so hot that the battery started to puff up, it popped the back
That's
off.
bad. Yeah. You want to avoid that. So if you're getting a puffy battery in a puffy phone, it means it probably had something bad happen to it, and I bet it had to do with heat. But there is something that's making it worse, and that's wireless charging. Speaking of Nicola Tesla, this is a derivative of his work.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a lot of phones that are now enabled to do wireless charging. Everything from like the 6 Edge to the S4, this guy, to the S4 with the special charging back. And remember, we mentioned that it's a coil in there, right? That resonates, and then it generates a current, and that current's used to charge the battery. Well, that's going to generate heat. So now you're putting heat on top of something that's already hot, and then you're putting all of that onto a surface that's hot and getting hit by the sun, which
especially because people now are using the little stands on their dash and just using their phone for GPS. If you're an Uber driver, I guess you'd be using it all the time. So your phone's going to get hot because it's using GPS and it's plugged in.
And it's madness. It's madness, Bryan. It's a great way to kill your phone, which is why Chevy has come up with a brilliant idea to help you people who want to wirelessly charge your phones without destroying them on your dashboard. They want to air condition your phone.
So they can have a special slot for your phone?
Actually, yeah. So this is at the bottom of the console, down like where the coin thing would be. The cool thing is that's a charging surface. So that is an inductive charging surface. If you have a Qi-enabled device, if you put it down there, it will automatically start charging. But what they've done is they've moved it off the dashboard, where a lot of inductive charging products have been.
Really?
Moved it down to where it's not getting hit by direct sun. And then that little vent right there, that's actually a bypass from your main air conditioning. So if you have your air conditioning on, you're actually taking some of it, siphoning it off, and using it to cool your phone while it charges.
Okay, that's pretty clever.
It's clever, right?
I was like, what has Chevy got up their sleeve? I like that.
It's going to be available in several of their 2016 vehicles, including the Volt, the Cruise, the Impala, and the Malibu. It's like all the popular models. And they are going to include that small compartment with the AC vent, with the inductive charging. So if you've got a product that is rigged for wireless charging, you no longer have to sacrifice your battery.
All right. Good job, Chevy. What I'd like to see is you put your phone in the slot and then you use your phone for like everything too. Like it brings up on the nav screen and stuff.
And like the car engine runs off the cell phone. So
yeah, and it starts talking to me, like Kit, Knight Rider.
On the next know-how, how to make your car crash along with your phone.
Oh.
Yeah. Folks, we know that this has been a lot of information. This is a long episode of Know-How. So, of course, you're going to want to stop by our show notes page. You can find all the links for all the questions we talked about. We're going to make sure we put in some information about the quads. Where do they go, Bryan?
They can go to twit.tv/KH, and yeah, we'll have all the links there. The show notes from today's show, probably the link to that creepy picture of Nicola Tesla that keeps popping up in the TV.
And Alex, so you can make your own determinations.
We'll have a side-by-side picture.
There you go.
Yeah, and You can always go back and see what the best screen cap was from the previous episode.
Absolutely. And don't forget that you can also find us on Google+. In fact, we're hoping you join us on Google+. We've got almost 9,000 members in the community. It's a great place to post questions about a project, maybe find ideas for a project. And it's not just quadcopters, folks. So jump in, ask us what you're looking for, and it might end up on the show.
Definitely. Yeah, present your projects, because they're typically better than ours.
But that's not the only place to find us on the socials.
That's absolutely not. We're also on Twitter. I'm at cranky_hippo.
And I'm at PadreSJ. And Nicola Tesla is actually at ANELF3. That's an L3. Well,
My God.
that is uncanny, actually.
Wait, did he just blink?
I do. Oh, gosh. Folks, until next time, I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
I'm Bryan Burnett.
And now that you know how,
Go break it. Drowning. Electrocuted.